but we're meant to be leaving Hong Kong and meant to be leaving Sydney in a few days. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
For Hong Kong.
For Hong Kong. But we've got a new hard lockdown in this area of Sydney, so we'll see if we're allowed out.
Oh, goodness.
Nothing
Tom.
simple.
Yeah.
We'd had no cases in Sydney for a really long spell, and Australia seemed completely clear. Now we've got a big set of cases just in this area where we are.
Oh, gosh.
The northern beaches. Yeah.
Okay, Ajahn is here now.
Hello, Suki, and hello, Haji.
Ajahn.
Good to see
Hello,
you.
Harji. Tom and Bev in New Mexico.
Hello.
Hello, Tom. Hello, Bev.
สวัสดีท่านอาจารย์ค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ
Good call. Okay, does anyone have something to start with? Is it Al?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have one question. That is, when realities are classified, they are used, and they are classified as first, 5 khandhas, second, ayatana, and third, dhatu. So 5, 12, 18, yeah? I'm wondering why there are these different classifications. Why, for instance, just classify realities as 18 dhatus? Why is it not enough? What is the sort of benefits of having different ways of classification? That's my question.
What about now? Just understanding the name or the number of the 5 khandhas, is it enough to know that now is no one, no self at all? That's why it takes quite a long time to understand whatever appears now. No matter what we are talking about, the khandhas or the ayatana or the dhatu or the area satya, it is this very moment. For example, what is meant by khandha.
Yeah, 5 khandhas.
What is there is real. So khandha is real, a reality, one by one. For example, seeing cannot be the visible object. Is visible object a khandha? Because whatever is real is there. And when there's no conditions for its arising, even that cannot be seen. So whatever is now appearing is conditioned by many, many conditions. That's why what is the rupa khandha? That which appears, which cannot experience anything. See, just this, there can be understanding of whatever appears as rupa khandha, that which cannot experience anything. So when we talk about 5 khandhas, rupa khandha is that now which cannot experience anything, but it's there by conditions. And it falls away, atita khandha, present khandha, anagata khandha. See, that which arises falls away, so it's the past. And that which doesn't come yet, it's a future. But when it comes appearing now, it is the present khandha. See, that's why there is not just the rupa khandha which is seen, but there is the seeing. If seeing does not arise, there cannot be seeing. So seeing is the khandha, but it can see. It just arises to see now. So seeing is a khandha. Just talk about the details of whatever appears so that there can be more understanding of no one and no self. That's why it has to be. What about this moment? All the teachings of Buddha about each one as it is. So very deep, very subtle. That's why just saying there is a khanda now, rupa khanda, is not enough. But what is it now? That which appears cannot understand anything, cannot experience anything. And that is that which is what Buddha said, khanda, rupa khanda. For example, ayatana is the now ayatana, the meeting place, the point where there are many things there, not just one. For example, at moment of seeing, there must be the eye base, rupa khanda, and rupayatana, or whatever it is. See, condition different to appear as different ones. Like seeing, even it experiences that which is seen, it's not see, it's not hearing, because hearing cannot see. So each reality is a khanda when it's there, rising and falling away. And it is ayatana, because there cannot just be the eye base, but there must be that which experience it, and also Dhammayatana, Phassa. Otherwise, they cannot be seen, and so on. Each different one is a khanda, and no more, just arise and falls away in split second. So no one can be there. No one sees now. Only that which arises to see by way of khanda, it is for khanda. By way of ayatana, what is it? What is seeing? What ayatana? It experiences. So it is manayatana. When we heard the word mana, it means that it experiences. It cannot just arise and fall away without experience anything at all. So at this moment of seeing, the seeing is not the rupa which is seen, and it's not the cetasika which is dhammayatana, but it is the chief of experiencing. Now it sees, and so it is manayatana. And when we talk about the Four Noble Truth, that which arises falls away, no one there. It is dukkha satya, because what's the use of just arise and experience and then gone? It cannot know what is there. It just sees and then gone. The more there is the understanding of each reality right now, it is the teachings of the Buddha. Otherwise, who can think about that? That no one, nothing now, only just appearing and then disappear. That's all.
Yeah, I will put my questions in this manner. When things, when realities are classified as five khandhas, what aspect of realities are emphasized? When they are classified in ayatana, in terms of ayatana, what kind of features of realities are emphasized? In the same manner, what kind of features or characteristics of realities are emphasized when they are classified as dhatu? That I'd like to know.
Okay. What is now cannot be known as it is, right? Unless hearing the teachings of Buddha, just one word is not enough. Two words is not enough. Even Buddha said that there's no one. So the meaning of each word of the Buddha will condition a little more understanding of no one, no self. And this is the absolute truth, the Ariya Satya, the Dhatu, whatever it is. If Buddha didn't teach about Dhatu and just about Khanda, then there is no idea about the different Dhatus by way of 18 kinds of Dhatu. See? By way of Khanda, 5 object of clinging. By way of Ayatana, what is that? Just at that very point, meeting point of these realities only, not the other. which are different khanda or different ayatana. And this is not enough. That's why he thought about the way to develop understanding from hearing, considering, understanding a little better, to be conditioned for any moment of understand it with the direct awareness of only one object at a time, to understand clearer about his teachings. No doubt about each word when there is understanding, but doubts when there are no understanding of what are there. So many things are there, but that is why the object does not appear well when it's not with understanding of that object as it is one by one. So we understand what's meant by pariyati, patipatti, and pativeda. Each word brings about the understanding better and better of no one, no thing there at all. Just from nothing to be something and then nothing again. Completely, absolutely. No I, no thing. It's only different moments of appearing and disappearing of that which appears. That's right. Just listening is not enough. What about now? It's what Buddha taught.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult to see
That's right.
this moment.
It's meant by very deep and very subtle. And these are the Buddha's word about. So very deep. Otherwise it didn't take long enough time to experience it directly and understand it little by little. After that, until it's so clear to be Ariya Satya.
So it's a different emphasis to Tao when we talk about khandas or ayatanas or dhatus. For example, visible object now, it arises and falls away instantly because it's khanda. That's what is meant by khanda, that it falls away as soon as it's arisen. Whatever rupa it is, falls away immediately, gone completely, never to arise again, whatever feeling, whatever chitta, whatever mental factor. So any reality is, any conditioned reality is khanda because it arises and falls away immediately. Nibbana is the only reality which is not khanda. So this is the emphasis on when we talk about khandas. But as Jan said, when we talk about ayatanas, when we read about ayatanas, the emphasis is on the association, the meeting together of different realities. Like this moment of seeing now could not arise if it did not meet and associate with the visible object that's impinged on the eye base and the various 7 cetasikas arising together with it. So these are the ayatanas that meet or associate together at any moment in life. And it shows how whatever arises now is conditioned because it's just conditioned by that meeting of different dhammas, not anyone who can do anything.
So conditionality of realities is emphasized when we talk about ayatana.
Yes, it's actually conditionality is emphasized when we talk about any kind of reality and any classification. But when we talk about ayatanas, it's particularly the association between dhammas. So it's just this moment, what is meeting, what is arising and associating together right now. Like they give the simile of the balancing on the needle point. So this is the balancing of the different realities on the needle point for an instant and then gone. So that is the emphasis of ayatana, that it's just at this moment meeting of different dhammas.
Yeah.
And then when we talk about dhatus, it's emphasizing how any reality at all is just an element. Even nibbana is just an element. Seeing is just an element. Hearing is just an element. What is seen, what is heard are just elements. No one there at all. Just elements like bubbles and then gone.
And I think in the commentaries, it's explained that the different classifications have appealed to listeners of different predispositions and intellect. So what may be meaningful for you, which particular classification may be more helpful, depends on accumulated tendencies. And likewise, someone else may find a different classification more meaningful in terms of coming to understand more about conditioned dhammas. And we should add that the 3 or 4 you've mentioned, khandhas, ayatanas, dhatus, are not the only classifications of realities. There are others also, like the 4 foundations of mindfulness. The way of classifying all conditioned dhammas too.
Yeah, for me, the easiest classification is just nama and rupa.
Right.
And then 5 khandhas, because it's just 5. And dhatu and ayatana are difficult to grasp.
So that's why it's good to hear and consider and reflect on what is the importance. Why did the Buddha teach so much about ayatanas and dhatus? There must be a reason, a purpose, and it must be about the realities at this moment. Because if we just hear about how seeing is nama and visible object is rupa, it's not enough. We need to hear more details and reflect on dhammas in different ways, different aspects.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's a little bit clearer.
Jonathan, you mentioned the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Can you say a bit about that, please?
Well, that's the Mahasatipatthana Sutta.
Okay.
Yeah. Rupa, Vedana, Chitta, and Dhamma. Those 4 classifications. Yeah. And in that classification, Dhammayatana includes actually all dhammas, all conditioned dhammas. So the other 3 as well. And Rupayatana, sorry, not ayatana. What's the term I'm thinking of? Anyway, the Rupa category there relates particularly to the rupas that are taken to be the body.
Okay.
This is Haji. So yesterday I couldn't attend Thai Abhidhamma session because I woke up late. But Achan Kampan has tell you what I want to ask, but that is actually not the what I intended to ask. Papa, can you explain?
Achan, Haji has the question about what it means for moha, for example, and other akusala, but moha, for example, that when it arises, it increases. Since he thinks that moha arises and it just does not know, but what does it not know more? What does it mean to increase moha increasing?
Like even if from each moment of akusala chitta cannot arise without ignorance, but what do you mean by not knowing more than previously before, or previously than before moment, or even a long way, year in samsara? What do you mean by increasing in ignorance? Like if we say development of panya means there's little more understanding in reality, so panya develop. But if we saying the term of ignorance, what do you mean by developing ignorance, or not increasing ignorance? What do you mean by not knowing more than before? Because before also not knowing anything, whether it's past, previous moment, last life, or even a long way in samsara in many eons ago.
Is there any understanding of this moment?
Yes.
Is there any understanding of this?
Next moment, no understanding.
No.
Understanding.
If not consideration, then no.
So it's more when it arises and arises and arises on and on. More, two is more than one. Three is more than two, right? So how many moments with not understanding, ignorance?
But like I'm still a bit doubtful. Like if there's no, when we saying that there's a little bit development of panya, so also we say that it's eradicate ignorance little by little. When we say eradicate means because of starting develop of panya, that understand reality little by little, so there's little more less ignorance. So if there's no like if there's no consideration, it means that we didn't know anything. There's just ignorance in everything from the first time, maybe past life or what. But increasing, I don't understand the term increasing. How increasing ignorance is more than previously or long way in samsara?
When you went to school the first day, and what about after you have finished?
Again, please.
More understanding, or just the same as the first day?
When you went to school?
In subjects and all that. So if I've studied, but Dhamma is not like that, understanding.
Why not? You understand the word Dhamma,
Yeah.
but when you hear more, you understand more.
Yeah. When there's a real moment, consideration and panya arise, then it's only that moment that understand.
It's just pointing to the accumulation, no matter we're talking about understanding or ignorance or attachment or anger. Each of these mental factors, when it arises with, in the case of panya, kusala chitas, or in the case of ignorance or attachment, akusala chitas, each time they arise, they accumulate a little more, like putting specks of salt in the ocean, a little more, even though it can't be seen. But this is what is meant by accumulation. This is what is meant by pakatu vanisya pachya, that it builds up, it accumulates, because that habit becomes a little more ingrained. So when you go to school and study any subject, that knowledge accumulates a little more. So by the time you finish school, you can read and add your maths better than before. And in the same way, the attachment now accumulates, the ignorance accumulates on and on whenever it arises with those akusala chitas.
But Sarah, eons ago, the habit of ignorance was there as much. I mean, in proportion to kusala. Like now, I try to bring Haji back to now. We know that if there's accumulations of kusala, means that a kusala have the chance to arise more compared to and so if there's more and more panya, then Panya can come in between all the akusala more often. But when there's a question of akusala arising, and eons ago there's a lot of akusala and no Panya, now a lot of akusala and no Panya, the probability, the chance of akusala arising, moha arising, was not more, not less if there's no Panya. So what does it mean for moha to increase? And the probability is the same.
Yeah, whether the past year or year which are coming, what means it has to be like the same kind, like
as often.
This is thinking a very long story about it, but at this moment, if there is no understanding, moha is there, and that moha conditions more moha, but understanding can arise because reality can be known now. If it wasn't possible, we wouldn't be having this discussion. By hearing a little bit more about khandas or dhatus, it's a condition for understanding right at this moment. Visible object appears, it can be known right now. So we may think a long story about, oh, there's so much ignorance, so surely there are no opportunities for understanding, but actually understanding is so powerful when it arises and it conditions more understanding.
Right, there's no question about that.
But you missed the point actually. What we are trying to intend to ask is that like Panya, when we say, okay, I'm like when there is a little bit more development of Panya, if there's consideration, so that accumulate more and more. But what about ignorance? How can you not know more than before? Because before also, if there's no Panya, it's mean that knowing nothing. So what do you mean by not just increase, not just mean arising more frequently, but the amount of ignorance, what they're saying that increases.
Okay, let me give the example. Panya, we know that Panya of the Buddha is highest, and Panya of different people at different levels are different. So when we know, in case of Panya, Panya increases, we know what it means to increase and to be of different strengths. But moha just does not know. What does it mean for moha to be more?
It means that when it arises, there's an opportunity for it to rise again and again. So it also increases in strength. The attachment, when it arises, increases in strength. The moha increases in strength. It's just like the simile of the rubbing away of the axe handle in the case of Panya, and the opposite with moha. Each time it arises, it accumulates at that same way. I think that what one's forgetting is this moment and different cheetahs at this moment. So I think it's enough to know that when it's moha right now, it accumulates a little more. And if you say, oh, but when there is understanding in between, but the point is when there is moha, it's just that reality with moha, and it increases a little bit more. So it's not like, oh, when there is understanding, it means that moha won't increase when moha arises.
I mean, so what does it actually mean? The moment before, moha, a moment before, and the moha now is increased. What does it mean?
Or even in the past, then samsara, it's like, because if there's no Panya, then there's not knowing anything at all. But what I was intent to ask is, how can you not know more? What we say when we say that each moment of ignorance is not only that going to condition in future to arise more frequently, but the amount of ignorance, like in Panya,
or the strength of ignorance.
Of the strength of ignorance. So when we saying that the Panya arise and accumulate, so we say more Panya, mean because there's little more understanding. But when we say more ignorance, how does it mean more in the strength than before previous moment, or even long back in samsara, eons ago? If there's no Panya, it means it doesn't know anything at all.
I understand your question. You're really asking how can there be degrees of not knowing? And I don't know what the answer to that question is, but what I understand to be the case is certainly in terms of frequency, there is a big difference. But as understanding is developed, the frequency of the panya becomes less. So even up, but at each moment of ignorance, there is not knowing. And to me, it doesn't matter what the degree or strength is at a given moment, because there is not knowing. And this is gradually eradicated as panya is developed, so that eventually there are fewer and fewer moments of not knowing and more moments of either understanding or kusala.
Yeah, I do agree with you, but then when we say that when akusala increase and all that, it's harder to eradicate. What do you mean by?
Actually, he's heard some things in Thai. So with moha, what was the actual word in Thai?
May I say เป็นการเพิ่มความไม่รู้ในลักษณะของสภาพธรรมะมากขึ้น
And in terms of other akusala
ก็คือถ้าความเห็นผิดก็เพิ่มขึ้นถ้ามานะเพิ่มขึ้นโลภก็ความติดข้องเพิ่มขึ้นโทสะก็ความโกรธก็เพิ่มขึ้น
No, and you were saying something just after that. Okay, we go one by one.
Okay, one by one.
So John, what it means, because that's what he heard. It seems to be saying, I mean, because that was my explanation from the beginning, that it just means
arise frequently.
And but he hears such what is said. It seems to say that the strength of the Cetasika is somehow different, and so that's why his question states.
Like when we saying that each moment of attachment, we saying that attachment is more accumulated, so strength of attachment increase, and or either anger or wrong view or mana, like that. When we say panya, so we say strength of panya increase. But when we say ignorance, the strength is not only the frequency that will condition in future moments, but it's saying that the strength of ignorance also would build up.
Yeah, but still it is not knowing. So whether it's what we would call strong or weak, I don't see that there's any benefit to. I mean, the answer to your specific question doesn't appear in the text, as far as I know. So we are just, in a sense, speculating what might be the explanation. But is it not sufficient to know that in the case of panya, for example, and kusala, that they increase in strength as they are developed, and the agusala tendencies are reduced, whatever that means, and over time they're eradicated.
But then they're saying that ถ้าเกิดอกุศลก็จะเป็นการพอกพูนอกุศลจะเป็นการที่ยากสำหรับการขัดเกลา
At the same time, that's the next question. You're saying that when the akusala increases, it makes it harder for panya to arise.
This seems like an explanation for those who would advocate some kind of practice, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But we understand it a bit differently, that what is important is what are the factors for developing understanding and other kinds of kusala. That's the main thing. But if you think too much about the strength of the agusala, it's the wrong direction. I don't think we need to contemplate on that. Of course, no one's advocating the development of agusala, so we don't need to go that route, do we? No one is suggesting that there should be more agusala. It's all about developing kusala.
Yeah, I think accumulated moha is quite dangerous because one would have less ability to see satya as satya. So if we do not hear Dhamma for several lives or several hundred lives, then we would have less ability to appreciate the teaching when we hear it. So knowingly accumulating moha is dangerous because even we hear really true Dhamma, we do not see the benefit of its teaching. So in this samsara, it's quite a dangerous factor, just accumulating moha, because even if we encounter Dhamma, because of our accumulated moha, we do not see the benefit of Dhamma.
Can I also add that in the text, it is wrong view that is said to be the most dangerous of the akusala tendencies.
Yeah.
And I think dwelling on all the moha that is and is being accumulated is a fruitless kind of exercise. Just leads to an idea that I should be having less moha. I need to have, if I have more moha, then it'll be more difficult to develop understanding and insight. I think that is not a helpful direction to go.
And usually there's the idea about my moha that's been accumulated for aeons, but what about just understanding what appears now, no matter attachment, no matter kindness, no matter seeing, no matter visible object, and then no need to think about all the past moha and what will happen if there's more understanding and what will happen if more moha accumulates, because when there's understanding, then no doubt, no question about it.
And to me, that's the great thing about the Buddha's teaching. The emphasis is on the understanding of any reality that is appearing at the present moment. And if that is grasped, then all these other diversions are, all these other areas of study are a diversion and a distraction from that task. Sorry, Ajahn, you were going to say something.
Ajahn Jin, you may have any addition to?
Oh, yes. Is there any moha when there is the moment of kusala?
No, not possible. Cannot be.
No. So one moment of no ignorance, right?
Yeah.
And when there is more and more ignorance, more and more adding to just one moment, that's what's meant by whatever arises is accumulated. And when it's more and more, can we say that it's more and more and more?
Yes. I think that's the important point, as Sarah said in the beginning, that it's it's just a habitual tendency. So we know that each time a kusala arises, it increases the habitual tendency, and we can appreciate that when kusala arises, as Tada was saying, that if it's more moha, then it stops. It kind of makes it harder for kusala to arise. So we can see the benefit of kusala, developing kusala of all kinds, particularly panya, and the harm of accumulating more ignorance and other akusala. So I think that's where that's the important thing to understand, and it's all now. So yeah, you're right, Sarah. Thank you.
point now, it is the accumulation of good or bad tendencies right now. And if there's thinking about, but there was so much ignorance in the past and how couldn't the understanding, then that is doubt at this moment, is thinking and with doubt and more moha. So even at that moment, that thinking can be understood because it's present reality. So it has to come back to this moment, understanding now.
Thank you so much. And I want to understand, I have one more question about nimitta and Papa, can you edit the Satipatthana meaning? Can you explain?
No, I
Is
don't know.
nimit like in the seeing actually sees color. Color is the object of seeing. But when we say as a person and all that, we things or object, it's just nimit of what appears in through eye base. So, but it's not Dhamma that has its own characteristic, right?
So, sorry, it was about the nimitta of visible object. What was the point again, Haji?
It's nimit concept or any reality.
So visible object is seen, and because the visible object is seen, that visible object can only be experienced through the mind door by way of nimitta, because the visible object itself has fallen away. There have been many, many visible objects seen, and the nimitta is the sign of the visible object that's fallen away, and it has to be experienced in order for there to be the thinking about the idea of visible object. If there was no sign of visible object, there couldn't be thinking about an idea of a particular color or shape or our friend or someone here. So the reality, because of the experiencing of the reality, there is the condition for the nimitta of that reality to be experienced. And because there is the experiencing of nimitta, there is the experiencing of countless concepts on account of that visible object that was seen. Because the realities themselves arise and fall away so fast. So it's always the nimitta which is experienced.
The object of the seeing consciousness is the reality, not the nimitta of visible object.
Actually, like color is a Dhamma which has its own characteristics, which is reality. Nimitta is just a concept. There's no.
It's the sign of the reality.
Huh?
It's the sign of the reality that was experienced.
Sign of reality.
The sign, the nimitta of the reality. Before there is the thinking about the idea about the reality.
Sarah, are you saying that we would never see realities as they are directly? We are able to see realities by way of
Nimitta. It's not the understanding of one visible object. Countless visible objects have been seen arising and falling away. And it's the characteristic of visible object, the nimitta of that characteristic, which is experienced, even when it's highly developed understanding, even when it's the understanding of vipassana jnana or the understanding of the arahats. It's always the nimitta of the reality which is experienced. And this is not concept, but object of direct understanding.
Okay.
When it's when it's intellectual understanding or thinking about it, then it's the concept of reality. But when it's direct understanding, it's the limiter of reality that is experienced.
But Thanachan, I went and read in Thai, and then Achan Padam have in the reply, Achan Padam said that nimitta or anupayanchana is the detail of nimitta. It's just a concept. He said it's not real.
Do you know the details of just one rose? Or you just look and know that it's a rose? No attention to whatever are there as color and smell and so on.
Again, please, I didn't hear. Pardon me.
Achan asked, do you know the details of the rose? I mean,
Just one rose.
just one rose. Do you know, I mean, when you experience?
No, only color. See.
No, color see, but not only color, right? There's also the idea of a rose and its details.
But because of many cheetahs arise and fall in.
Right.
They see and think, and so many
Right.
to become one, even one petal of rose.
Petal of rose, right? To add something.
To add something.
So, Achan, your question?
About what?
About the rose. What is it? What when you ask, do you see the details of one rose? What was?
Yes. How many petals of just one rose?
Many, but because that is because seeing and thinking arise so uncountable moment.
And the more attention, the more there is the understanding what are there, not just one and different ones by color and so on. See?
We're not sure of the point, Achan.
Because you see many roses, right?
Yes.
Even just one rose, how do you know that it's different from the other? Or even from just a petal to the other petal?
Because seeing and thinking uncountable moment have to rise and fall to even see the different. It's already.
But there is a difference. I think the point Achan is saying is that the difference is because of the nimitta.
Anupyanchana, like now.
Yeah.
Like now, it's just visible objects seen. But why is there the thinking about different people and different images? Because there are different details, different anupyanchana that are seen. So it depends whether there's paying attention just to the visible object or to just to the sign of the visible object or to the details of what is seen. If it's something that one is not familiar with, like if I see some Thai writing, no paying attention to the details because it's not familiar. But if it's in English, there is paying attention to the details of Roti's name or Tom's name because there's more interest in it. So it's the details of what is seen, the different petals of the rose or the different features.
And I'd like to add just a general comment that a nimitta appears in a number of different contexts in the teachings, and it doesn't necessarily have exactly the same meaning in each context. Like the word sankhara, for example, it has different meanings depending. So if you're asking about nimitta and anupyanchana, and in the context of attending to nimitta and anupyanchana, it's just a way of referring to details of the object being observed, seen or heard or whatever. So not necessarily have the same meaning as when we talk about nimitta in the context of what the mind or experiences after the sense door process has finished and the object has fallen away.
Like every Dhamma has nimitta of its own, but except Nibbana, they don't have nimit. It doesn't have nimit.
What do you mean has nimitta? Every Dhamma has nimitta. What do you mean it has nimitta?
Means
Nimitta is not a characteristic of Dhammas.
okay. But nimitta is so nimitta.
When we say Dhamma is known by its nimitta, it's not a reference to a particular attribute of the Dhamma. It's just a reference to the fact that the arising and falling away happens so rapidly that it is the after image of the Dhamma that is known. But the only point of importance here is that the characteristic of the Dhamma can be known by the nimitta of the Dhamma, because as Sarah explained, when it is known through the mind door, the arupa has already fallen away. So that's the explanation for how the characteristic of the rupa can be known at that point.
Or the lobha or the moha now, it could never be known if it wasn't by way of the nimitta of that lobha or moha, because when lobha or moha arises, panya cannot arise at the same moment.
Oh.
So it's always the nimitta of the reality which is experienced.
Yeah, because it's already arise and fallen. So another moment is nimitta of that.
Yes, and not just of one moment of lobha. There must have been many moments of lobha for there to be the understanding of the nimitta of lobha.
Oh, thank you.
Or metta, when metta arises, there cannot be, object is other beings. There cannot be understanding of metta at that moment.
Yeah.
So it's the nimitta of metta which is understood. Same for any reality.
But then when we saying the nibbana, like the mak chitta, nibbana doesn't have nimit. The one explanation of nibbana is it's a dhamma.
Nimitta, yes.
Yes.
That's just a reference to the fact that it doesn't arise and fall away.
It doesn't have conditions. It's not arising.
Unconditioned, yeah.
And on the point about the 4 satipatthanas, 4 foundations of mindfulness. So this is referring to, it's just a way of classifying what the realities are, which can be the object of satipatthana now. So any rupa, any vedana, any citta, and then when it refers to dhammanupassana, it includes any khandha, any ayatana, any dhamma at all. So it's just referring to the objects of satipatthana. So as Jonathan said, it's just another way of classifying different realities which can be directly understood.
Yeah, because satipatthana is a direct awareness of nama rupa, but not at the moment nama rupa arises. It has to be the nimitta of that arise and fall in nama or rupa.
Yes, exactly. So in beginning, we just talk about understanding what is nama, what is rupa, what are the realities. But to be precise, it's always, at moments of satipatthana, it's always the nimitta of reality, which is known.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
got it. Yes.
So, Sarah, so to see nimittas as nimitta, there must be a certain level of panya, probably means that there must be jnana. It's not like ordinary so-called satipanya at the level of pariyatti.
So the panya, as we said before, has to accumulate, has to become habitual. If there's not the getting used to the habit of understanding that what is seen now is just that which is visible, not something, not someone, there can never be the direct understanding of what is visible. So the understanding just accumulates on, becomes more and more habitual. So there's less ignorance, less wrong understanding about what is experienced. And so it is only through the direct understanding of what appears now that it can be understood what is understanding, what is moha, what is seeing, what is meant by nimitta of reality.
Uh,
There's no particular stage of understanding that is described as the understanding of nimitta. So it may not ever be known as nimitta.
When we talk about the understanding, the direct understanding of realities, it is about the direct understanding of the nimitta of realities.
yeah.
It's the same.
So nimitta is also have different meaning. Like if we saying like seeing person and all that, that is another nimitta is that is only concept which is not real. So there is
Yes.
different meaning of nimitta.
That is not sankhara nimitta, the nimitta of realities. Or if we're talking about the development of samatha, the attainment of jhanas, the object is nimitta. In that case, it's nimitta of a concept, almost always, like the kasina of earth, it's concept of earth, not the reality. So it's, but in this context, we're talking about sankhara nimitta, the nimitta of reality, that is, has to be part of the path of understanding what appears now.
So
it always depends on the context when we read or study what is being discussed.
Yeah. So in what we say in Satipatthana, that direct awareness of nama rupa is sankhara nimitta.
Yes.
Okay.
It's sankhara nimitta, the nimitta of that nama or rupa that appears. Yes. So when we talk about rupanupassana or vedanupassana, and we talk about, and the Buddha talks about the understanding of pleasant feeling or unpleasant feeling now. In fact, it has to be nimitta of that pleasant feeling, which is known.
So, Sarah, if one develops panya at the level of seeing nimitta as nimitta, can we say that his panya is strong enough to see realities as they are?
If panya understands what is seen now, visible object now, it doesn't matter whether what we call it or how we name it or whether we say it's visible object or nimitta of visible object. It's just that which is seen. But in fact, panya understands that visible object has fallen away. In fact, it must be the nimitta of visible object. But at that moment of understanding, it's just that characteristic of visible object which appears.
Okay, thank you.
If anyone have any question, then but if not, then I have one more question. They say that each Dhamma that arises and falls are condition for each other Dhamma that arises and falls at that time. Like, for example, Chit and Chetasika. Chit also is a condition for Chetasika. Chetasika also is a condition for Chitta. But when we talk about Rupa, in one Kalapa, there have to be 4 Mahabhuta Rupa. Mean the water, the fire, the wind, or the earth element. And then they have to be color, smell, taste, and nutrition. But then they're saying that these 4 color, smell, the taste, and the nutritions are not conditioned for the Mahabhuta Rupa, but Mahabhuta Rupa are conditioned for these 4. But in Rupa, it has to be, it cannot arise just Mahabhuta Rupa. It has to have this 4 others also. Then it is not possible in one Kalapa. It had to have minimum of 8 Rupa. So I don't understand why.
So those 8 rupas always arise together in a kalapa,
Yeah.
but the 4 that you mentioned are conditioned by the Mahabhuta rupas, the primary rupas. So they are the rupas that the others depend on rather than the other way round. But you're right, they have to arise together. And in that way, by just like the Chitta and Cetasikas condition each other by way of Sahajata Paccaya, and it's the same with the Rupas, they condition each other by way of Sahajata Paccaya. But in another way, it is the primary Rupas that condition the other Rupas, not the other way around.
So in the term of Sahajata Paccaya, all Dhamma that arise at the same time are conditioned for each Dhamma, each other at the same time.
Exactly, but just as the Chitta and Cetasikas all condition each other by Sahajata Paccaya when they arise together, Chitta is still the chief, the leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the sense of Sahajata Paccaya, all even 8 Rupa are conditioned for each other.
Yes, it means they condition the nature of each other, like the degree of hardness conditions the visible object. So they condition each other, but still the other 4 depend on all other rupas arising together in the kalapa, no matter 8 or 10 or 12 or 14, however many they are all conditioned by the Mahabhuta rupas.
So we have to see in the term what term of condition is.
Exactly. What is meant, what is the, yes.
Sarah, may I ask a question, just really to follow up on that? And it goes back to, I'm not sure if Ajahn is still here. Hello, Ajahn, if you are. Ajahn.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, hello. Ajahn, you made a comment earlier, I think to Dao about studying the details of the Dhamma, and just in terms of this discussion at the moment, is the point of studying the details so that there is a deeper and deeper understanding of the conditionality of all realities, which actually helps to understand the concept of no self? So the details are not in just for their own sake, but they relate to, I suppose, just that coming at the idea of no self, I suppose in an essential way, but in a way that sometimes seems roundabout. So when we have a detailed discussion, it seems like why are we talking about all these details, and it's sometimes hard to make the connection. But I suppose I'm just checking that I think your emphasis earlier was that it actually helps us to understand or get closer to an understanding of no self, because the conditionality of all realities just becomes clearer and clearer.
Just to understand the truth of whatever is there now. Otherwise, we think that we know and we understand enough, but actually, what is the absolute truth? Each one cannot be taken for permanent thing or I or whatever we are thinking about right now. For example, seeing. No understand of seeing, no matter how much we think about it, but not clearly yet, because Panya is at level of thinking. Because the enlightenment means experiencing directly the truth, as Buddha taught. Whatever arises is conditioned. What about now? No one can make it arise. Begin to understand the truth, the absolute truth of no one. Whatever arises falls away. Even thinking now, even sanya, remembering now, whatever are there, not just one in a moment, but no understanding of it. Otherwise, it's I, one bottle, one everything, but actually, it's like that which is not exactly known as it is. That's why just one word to understand clearly is not, it is not possible. It needs more and more. And while listening, there is the moment of understanding of that which appears as what it said. That is the study of the truth which is there, and that is Dhamma. Otherwise, we just learn about the word and what we take, like nimitta and so on, and then Dhamma and the Dhamma. But what is Dhamma? Is it there now? Dhamma, no one there. The point is to study the truth of whatever is now appearing, but no one can understand it directly as Buddha had enlightened. That's why we need to listen carefully. And what is the benefit of the precious moment? It's the moment of understanding this moment. Otherwise, nothing can lead to direct awareness of that which is now as it is. And the point is not just to learn more about this and that, but to understand each word as the truth of that reality which is now appearing. For example, there is seeing. No one knows what condition seeing to arise, and seeing cannot be taken for anything because it's gone. Just arising and falling away so rapidly can bring about more understanding of the useless of that which appears. Otherwise, we think about the usefulness of doing this, understanding this or that, but who is thinking? And what about the sanya, cetasika? And what about other realities there, not known? For example, when we talk about ignorance, who knows? But when it is the moment of understanding the truth, that is it, because it's not the understanding. So it's different from moment of understanding, which is there in a state of ignorance, not understanding it. And this is the truth that can be directly experienced. Even now, one heard about the arising and falling with so rapidly of everything which appears, but not as it is. For example, when we talk about attachment is unknown. Only Panya can know. See, it depends on Panya, the understanding of the word of truth from the Buddha. That's why we learn about what is Dhamma. It's not in the book, but it's now. So study Dhamma is study the truth of what is now appearing, to understand that if there's no arising of such which appears, there cannot be that at all. And as soon as it arises to perform its function as seeing, seeing just arises to see and then gone. Who knows? Without considering wisely, so that it can begin to understand this is so true, and that which cannot know is there. And if you don't call it avijja or ignorance, but it's character of that which cannot understand the truth. That's why the truth is hidden from life to life until the enlightenment of the Buddha, and he taught so anyone can listen and study carefully, wisely, to understand it. It's just no one there at all. But ignorance, not understanding the truth from moment to moment, is there. So think about each word that we or anyone heard about it, not just pass with the idea that I understand, but actually it leads to no I, and no I, because it's that reality which remembers and that reality which likes and so on in a day. This is the study of Dhamma. To understand it can be directly experienced the truth. Otherwise, it's only thinking about them from moment to moment while they are there, not the object of understanding directly yet. And when there is more understanding, there is more and more detachment from take it for something. Otherwise, attachment is there and it covers the truth all the time because of it is attached to whatever is there. No understanding that that which is attached is no more, no matter what. Now, beginning to see the world as it is, the world of only reality which can be seen. Otherwise, it's the dark world, no matter the see, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, like and dislike. See, this is to understand Dhamma. We listen to Dhamma to understand Dhamma, which is now. And without the teachings of the Buddha, the enlightenment, can anyone directly the truth that it's only that which performs its function, like is like, dislike is dislike, heat cannot be sweet, and so on. This is all appears in a day, from moment to moment, from birth to death. It depends on understanding that just study that which is now appearing, to let go the idea, the wrong understanding that it's something permanent. So what's about just one word that you're thinking to talk about now? It's there, gone, see?
Ajahn, when we say it has gone completely, do we actually mean that it no longer exists? Or do we mean that it has that it is different? So, for example, what arises in terms of visible object, we mistake it. We mistake the frequent arising for some sort of continuity. But in actual fact, it appears to be like that, but it is never the same. But does it cease? Does the visible object that arose just recently and fell away, has that totally ceased to exist, or does it reappear differently? When visible object next arises and we think about whatever is there,
It's not moment of seeing, Rose. It's the moment of thinking about Rose. Right?
Yes, but the thinking is actually when the visible object of what we can say is Rose arises again, it's a different
Rose,
Rose,
one, not the same reality.
not the same reality. No. Um,
Not the same thinking.
and not the same thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, when we talk about, and maybe I'm confusing accumulation here. I suppose I'm not suggesting that there is a continuity, but that there is that what falls away does not disappear. I suppose that's what the question is, that it actually, what reappears is connected with what appeared formerly, but it is now totally different. So, for example, with understanding, and I guess this is partly connected to something that Alan was asking you about on Saturday, I think, and you asked him the question about was he afraid of death, and he said that he wasn't so much afraid of death as he was afraid of not encountering the Dhamma in another life.
Yes.
Because he appreciated the importance of Dhamma. And it made me think about how obviously it is not Alan or any one of us who will experience Dharma in another life or under any degree of understanding in another life, but somehow understanding will be experienced. And in a sense, it doesn't matter now that it will not be Maeve who has some understanding in another life or in the future, but that somewhere understanding will arise because of that intrinsic nature of anatta. And so the value of developing understanding is not a personal one. It's not really about, I don't know, making sure that in another life there is, that carry on of merit, etc., but that there is, in the face of all the suffering that is endured, there is also understanding that is being developed for others who are unknown and unnamed and all of that. But I suppose in terms of thinking like that, the question arose for me, well, it must mean that understanding does not fall away completely.
Completely? Where it's now?
Well, I don't know. That's my question, actually. In order for understanding to arise in other circumstances, it seems that there must be conditions for its existence.
Only understanding or anything?
Oh no, everything. No, everything. But I guess I was focusing on understanding because Alan's question just prompted that thinking about who understands and who understands in the future, other lives, etc.
Okay, is this moment is conditioned by previous moment, even just a moment ago or yesterday or from birth, from moment to moment? How come to be this moment?
Well, that's the question. How come to be this moment? Yes, indeed. Indeed.
Yes. Yeah, this question can be answered by thinking over it, each word as it is, what is meant by anatta. It's just not I or thing, but whatever is there, even is only that which can impinge on the eye base, and seeing ceases then and there as nothing, only that which is there, no idea about whether it has impinged on the eye base and it still be the object of that which experiences. That is all about thinking. So even the understanding of the term anatta, it has to be very careful to understand the fully meaning to be understood, like no thing, only that which appears, but not as it is because of the rapidity of moment to moment to moment to moment to appear such like that. See, just one moment like that which impinged on the eye base cannot be something. See, but why come to be this and that around this here on the table or no matter where? Because not understanding the absolute truth that what is there has to be conditioned and no one can make it rise because actually condition is a reality. Without being a reality, can it be conditioned? A condition to condition what and what and what. That's why it's quite very, very difficult to develop understanding without from word to word, one word at a time, carefully thinking, is it something there? A table, a rose? When there's no seeing, can there be such idea? And just a moment of seeing, can it be a rose or a table? Impossible. That's why life is so very hidden by ignorance, not understanding. And we begin to understand, then there can be the beginning of understand what is meant by understanding. Understanding what? Otherwise, it's only the idea, understanding the truth of that which is there by no one at all, but is there. For example, while we are talking, there's seeing all the time. It appears like that. But if nothing arises to be seen, can they be seen? But we just think and think, no attention to that which is seen and that which sees at all. So is that the understanding of that which appears? Because the understanding means understanding of a reality which is there. And when we use the word reality, it means that there is no one and nothing in it. For example, sound is sound, seeing is seeing, and hearing is not seeing by conditions or who condition it to arise. To letting go the idea of self from hearing and considering little by little to understand different degrees of whatever is there. For example, we use the word sati, but what is it? See, hearing is not sati, thinking is not sati. So we don't use sati hears or seeing sees, but seeing sees, and sati can arise with moment of seeing. So sati is not seeing. When there is more and more understanding of each reality, it eliminates little by little the misunderstanding of that which appears as something in one's life and not just only this life. We cannot deny that there is something appearing now, no matter it's that which is seen or heard or just thought about. But it's there at that very moment only, different ones, see? Thinking about the difference of yesterday and today. That which was experienced yesterday, no more today. Even we seems like seeing the same thing, but actually what appears is there and then gone, never to return, no matter what. For example, at moment of hearing sound, there is sound appearing, and seeing and hearing hears it. Where was that reality again in now or at this moment? Not there again at all, completely gone, unknowingly. That's why it's so very difficult to get rid or to detach from what we take for something from life to life, eons and eons ago. That's why Buddha said, don't be careless or underestimate about what is there, as that is known, but I know, and is there something that's not right? And from hearing, considering little by little at that moment by conditions, because after that moment of thinking, no more, there is another kind of thinking or a kind of reality appearing all the time. See, and that can be directly experienced. That's why Buddha enlightened. Enlightenment directly experience the truth, which is hidden even right now, from time to time in life, all in life. Realities cannot be known without hearing the truth of it and consider that it's not just understanding the word or what is taught about that reality, but to be the moment when this can be penetrated, the truth, as it is arising and falling away. Even in the beginning of the object appear clear, that's not enough yet. It has to develop more and more and see how clinging is there for whatever is there from time to time, all the time. That's why it's a way to letting go that which is hidden as I all the time. It's attachment to such idea, wrong understanding. So it has to be now. And in the beginning, even we heard about the five khandas, talking about the name, Rupa Khanda, and what is that which is hard at this moment. Hardness is experienced by ignorance or by kusla or by whatever, and also by panya at different levels. For example, at this moment of hardness appearing, is there any thinking or thought about it? Or begin to understand that as at that moment there is nothing, only hardness there, see? And this is the absolute truth, that it can be developed little by little from hearing and considering about that which is now appearing. Because even after hearing a lot, what about the moment in a day by conditions? There is moment of thinking about that, even not direct experience yet. As nothing there. And what is meant by nothing there? It hasn't happened yet. It does not appear as nothing there because they appear together. Eyes, ears, sometimes nose, sometimes sound. See? So just one moment, a moment of understanding that which appears as no one and nothing. That is the meaning of anatta. No one, what? Now. Of what? Of that which is there, not anyone. For example, hardness. See, that's why there are questions to be thought about carefully, whether it's true or not. Whether it is Do you have arms, or is there arms at moment of seeing? And what's the truth? To lead to more understanding, bring about more understanding little by little, that the truth is now and this only, not the other thing which does not appear yet. Even is true only when it is there, conditioned to arise and appear. Even it is arisen now, Panya can understand it. But when it's not Panya, what about attachment now to that which is seen? 3 moments after seeing it's there. The asava, see, who knows? And how to have less when there's no understanding, it's impossible. So understanding is moment of understand that which is there as it is, from hearing the word of truth and consider whether it's true or not. And then when it's true, no one can make it rise, only by conditions. So everything is conditioned to arise, to be just such like that only. And this is the meaning of anatta. That's why just understanding anattaness will bring from a little understanding to very, very great unexpected moment of understanding the truth as Buddha had taught and enlightened. So anyone who develop the understanding begin to understand the virtues of the Buddha. It's not just like everything is anatta. That's not enough. And right understanding cannot be ignorance at all, because it begins to understand what is there. While there's no understanding about the truth. So not understanding is a reality that is called avijja, no understanding. And wrong view, that is taken for something permanent, while it's not permanent. And there's the way to eradicate ignorance and all dhammas, not to arise again. One has to understand that whether it's good to live without any understanding from life to life, non-stop. Only pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling very shortly, and then gone completely. Cannot be found anymore, anytime, any place, after it has fallen away, completely gone. So one will be this being only before death, but after death, no more. But the reality is, has to be conditioned again and again by different conditions. Less ignorance, more understanding, or whatever. That's make people are different. Each one is different. By Dhamma, no one. Dhamma is different. Only once in samsara, only one in samsara. Not there anymore, even right now. And this is the way to detach from ignorance and cling so much to that which is not permanent. So
when you mentioned just a little while ago about what is understanding, I know that there is a lot of confusion between conventional understanding and the understanding that you're talking about, which does seem to be of a different, it has a different quality about it. And so that partly what's involved is learning to understand, learning that the understanding is not, even though I know you made that comparison earlier about going to school, but it seems that to understand Dhamma is different to how we go about learning conventionally. So when you say what is meant by understanding, that's actually, it's a deep question, and I when I think about that, I realize that it's there's a lot of mystery to understanding when we talk about the Dhamma.
And this understanding is so true that there can be understanding that it is understanding, not I.
Mm-hmm.
And not all the time beginning to understand the anotherness of whatever is now appearing. It's not there forever. And no one can make it arise, but it has arisen by conditions. That's why it is Dhamma, the absolute Dhamma. So very deep, Abhidhamma.
Mm. Mm.
And this is the point, because even when we say there is this being for this life, this is just in conventional terms, because in fact there are only ever these different conditioned realities. So understanding arises now, in spite of the fact that there is no one to understand, no Maeve, no Sarah to understand. It's just the understanding which understands, and it will be the same in another life. So as we said at the beginning, it's the panya itself which accumulates and understands on and on. So regardless of whether we talk about conventional Maeve or Sarah in this life, or the conventional other being in another life, it's actually the panya itself which accumulates and develops and understands and isn't lost at all.
Yes.
So nothing to be afraid of, because just like now, panya can arise by itself by conditions and accumulate. So no need to be afraid that it won't condition more understanding, because it just works its way.
Thank you, Sarah. I think that's probably what I was trying to say in a much more roundabout way than what you've just done, as a result of thinking about Alan's question, because
Exactly.
it is that that confidence, I suppose, that
when we're afraid of losing the panya, is thinking of I who has
yes, exactly.
Panya. It's
yes.
not understanding of panya itself, which does the understanding.
Which is sort of natural and just part of the process, I suppose, of coming to see how there is a different way, that as long as we are always seeing things through the filter of self.
Exactly. There will always be fears and worries about this or that.
Yes, it is very hard. And I certainly don't want to suggest any criticism about what Alan said. In fact, it was really valuable. But I suppose it made me realize how much of my thinking is similar. And it's almost like when you realize that there's that sort of, when there's worry or some kind of anxiety or unease, it's almost like it's a flag that
what will happen to me? Yes,
it's going in the wrong direction. Yes, whereas the thinking about, and even in relation to the alleviation of suffering, it can't really be thought about in terms of my suffering, that, you know, the realization of the truth is going to diminish the suffering of this particular sentient being. It's not about that at all. It's about reducing the experience of suffering where the conditions for it to rise occur, and there is some understanding that is also there, that also arises. So there's that, I suppose it keeps coming back to an impersonality around all of this, whereas our strong tendency is to just keep personalizing it.
And the truth of suffering, the first truth of suffering, is that whatever is conditioned, whatever arises, is dukkha, is unsatisfactory. Even the pleasant feeling we crave so much is dukkha. Even the panya at this moment is dukkha, because it falls away instantly.
And
Yes.
also dukkha is to be distinguished from the unwholesome mental factors, like we were talking about earlier, ignorance and wrong view. Those they are accumulated tendencies. And 2 points. One is, it is said that it is the accumulated tendency that arises and manifests. So in answer to your original question about is it reality that re-arises later in a different form, or is it gone forever? In a certain sense, the accumulated tendencies are quite different from the, say, sound and visible object, in the sense that it is the accumulated tendency that from which those mental factors will manifest when they arise.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas these mental factors are gradually reduced as panya is developed, the same cannot be said for the characteristic of dukkha, or unsatisfactoriness, because the person who develops understanding sees the unsatisfactoriness of conditioned existence even more and more clearly as the understanding develops.
Yes.
So there's no reduction, if you like, of suffering, of dukkha. It is there as a characteristic of sentient existence, and it is seen more and more clearly as understanding is developed, until and it remains that so until total extinction, until the final death that is not followed by any rebirth. Only then can one talk about the cessation of suffering.
And yet we talk about the relief that arises when there is some, at the beginning of understanding of the anatomness of things. That Sarah, I've often heard you say it's a great relief to have that understanding, and that seems to me to be some at that moment, then there is not the whatever suffering arises from thinking in terms of a permanent self.
Even understanding, for example, that visible object is unsatisfactory because it's impermanent and not in anyone's control. It's a relief to understand it, not worth clinging to at all. Yes. And the same with the sound or whatever it is that is taken for this person or that person. Whatever arises is unsatisfactory. So the understanding conditions detachment rather than attachment as usual, by understanding that whatever arises is dukkha.
So perhaps I'm confusing that relief, which no doubt is accompanied by kusala. So there's a pleasant feeling in that sense of relief, but it doesn't mean that there is a cessation. It's just a temporary
Pleasant feeling is
For a
also
moment.
dukkha.
Yes,
that
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
the
And
relief is dukkha too.
as Jonathan said, even for the arahats, each moment of each pleasant feeling is dukkha, each sound is dukkha. So whatever arises in life is dukkha, is unsatisfactory. And that is the teaching of the Buddha, which we wouldn't know without him, because it always falls away. And I just want to very briefly, quickly go back to Haji for a moment, because I just want to clarify one point, Haji. So when we talked about the four great elements conditioning the upadana rupas, that depend on it, the four primary rupas condition each other by sahajata paccaya, co-nascent condition. And they condition the other rupas that arise together with them by way of sahajata paccaya. But we cannot say the other rupas in the kalapa condition the primary rupas by way of sahajata. It's a one way. They depend on the four primaries, and also by way of nisya paccaya, dependence condition. The four primary rupas condition the other rupas, but not the other way round. That's why they are dependent rupas. So, for example, the sound that is heard now is conditioned by the four primary rupas that it arises together with, but the sound doesn't condition the primary rupas, or the taste that is tasted. It is, even though it always arises together with the four primary rupas, it is conditioned by them by way of sahajata and nisya paccaya, but the taste doesn't condition earth element, heat or cold, and so on. So that's why the other rupas are dependent on the four primary rupas.
So I understand. We have to see in the what term of condition we're saying.
Yes.
So in the sense of sahajata paccaya, every dhamma that arises condition each other. But when we talk about the like for all rupa has the Mahaputra 4 to be as its prime source.
Even by sahajata paccaya, like Chitta and Chaitasikas all condition each other by sahajata paccaya. But when we're talking about the rupas, four primary rupas condition each other by way of sahajata paccaya, and the four primary rupas condition the other rupas by sahajata, but it's not mutual. The other rupas do not condition the primaries. So it's just a subtle point. I just wanted to.
I understand.
Yes.
It's in the term of arising and falling together, that every dhamma is a condition for each dhamma. That I understand. No,
not rupa, not in the case of rupa.
No.
In the case of rupa, the four derived rupas do not condition the Mahabhuta rupas.
I know that is different. That is another condition in another way. But when we talk about in the term of sahajata paccaya, all dhamma that arise.
That's what Sarah is saying, and correctly, she's saying that the sahajata paccaya exists between the four primary rupas, not the derived rupas don't condition the Mahabhuta rupas, but sahajata paccaya.
No, but they can't be rupa just four Mahabhuta rupa. They have to be that another four also. So it's not possible to have just four Mahabhuta rupa in one kalapa.
Right, but not by sahajata paccaya.
Why? Sahajata mean arise in four at the same time.
Yeah, no, it means condition each other by. It means condition each other, existing and condition each other when they are there. But in the case of nama, the chitta conditions the cetasikas, and the cetasika condition each other and the chitta. But in the case of rupa, only the four condition each other by sahajata paccaya. The other four don't condition the rest by sahajata paccaya.
Oh.
Yeah. There's no mutuality in the case of the derived rupas. Actually, yeah, the sahajata is not the same as the mutual conditioning factor either. There's one condition that's a mutual one that's not applying. Sahajata is different from the mutual condition.
Another example is the Chitta and Cetasikas, which produce rupas when they arise. They condition rupa by Sahajata, by connascence, but the rupa doesn't reciprocally condition the Chitta at that moment. So we have to kind of consider it quite carefully, different kinds of Sahajata or connascence condition. So when it is so when we're talking about the four great rupas, they condition the upadhyaya rupas by Sahajata, but the derived rupas don't condition back by way of Sahajata. Yes. And it's interesting too, because we can tell how these other rupas are conditioned by the earth element, the air element, and so on, but not the other way around.
But I get it what you're trying to say, but also it's a bit confusion for me, since
Yes.
one rupa it cannot just arrive by 4 Mahaputa rupa. But okay, I get it. I start to get it now. Means in at least in one kalapa I have to have
Like the sound now is conditioned especially by the earth element, the degree of hardness at that moment, and the other primary rupas.
I start to get it.
Sound
Yeah,
now.
it's not the other way around. Yeah, but in the case of nama, each nama are conditioned for each other nama at that time.
They condition each other reciprocally, exactly. And the four primary rupas condition each other reciprocally too.
Yeah, I think I start to get it. The other four is not for Mahaputrupa, not condition Mahaputrupa, but Mahaputrupa is the condition the all other rupas. I get it.
Yes, that's why they're the primary rupas. Yes,
primary. That's why they call as Mahaputa, because
exactly.
I was going to add a bit more about your question about moha, because it seemed to me that the subject of the asavas came up, and it seems to me that's relevant also, because we know the asavas are the unwholesome mental factors that are oozing out all the time and are unknown. They do not appear. They're so subtle at that time that they don't appear, but they are having an effect. And so one of those four asavas is avijja, ignorance. And there can be any amount of avijjasava in a life, as well as when avijja actually arises a different level of appearing. So if we are thinking about the degrees of ignorance, the asavas have a bearing on this, because one is living in a fog all the time. It can be the effect of the asavas, because they're arising subtly all the time, even though they may not be appearing as ignorance. So it's like, as I say, living in a fog. The degree of ignorance varies according to how much of these asavas are present. Also, ditthi and kamasava and bhavasava, the other three.
I have think they have there are many way to classify kilesa, and they are like 3 level. One is the anusaya kilesa, is like the
John would know.
Accumulated.
No. They are
latent.
No, he's distinguishing between the Anusaya
and then the kilet that arise through the mind, and another level of kilet which do all the akusala karma.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Pariyutana and the something or other.
yeah. But then when we say about akusala karma, it's because of lobha or dosa arise with moha. Moha alone cannot do akusala karma. It has to arise with either lobha or dosa, right? So I want the level like if when you like steal, is just show that the level the strength of kilet at that time is strong, so that you can do akusala karma. So it's okay.
John has
All the
comment to make.
anusyas are there ready to condition the akusala, the tendencies, the latent tendencies, or germs. So Jan just suggested germs. It's just a few minutes left, so maybe Jan would like to add some comments before we finish.
We can't hear you. Are you turned on? Have you turned your audio on?
Okay.
Start again.
Thank you.
Talk about.
We've lost you again, Ajahn. Please turn on.
Do you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. What would you like to talk about?
Ajahn, it's up to you what topic you want to speak.
To understand this moment, as much as there are conditions for it to arise, the word of the truth about this is not self. Very short, but the word anothness or anatta will lead to more and more understanding to the moment of enlightenment. All are anatta. Even now, whatever appears cannot be anything permanent at all. Just only when it's there as object. Who knows that when there's not the object of experiencing, it's gone forever, never to arise again. But the sanya remembers it as something there all the time. What did I do yesterday? And what about future in a moment after this? See, are there by conditions? No one can make it arise. That's why if there's remembering of the nature of anatta, it will decrease our ignorance about with attachment or aversion of what realities which are accumulated to be able to condition such moment. So in the day, only a moment can bring about the understanding of the accumulation. At moment of getting angry, that is conditioned by the accumulation, just to condition only that moment, not the other moment, just to be such, not different from now. That can be a moment of thinking about it by
some people think that Nibbana as because it's a Dhamma, because it's permanent and it's not a dukkha, because it doesn't have condition and it's not fall or arisen by any condition. So some people take Nibbana as atta, but they don't understand the Dhamma-ness of the Dhamma, that Dhamma is no self for anyone, although it's permanent, but it's Dhamma. It's not a permanent object or like that, what some people may say.
Can there be less ignorance right now?
No. If no understanding, no.
Okay, but can it be the moment which has less ignorance because it does not arise? So when there's less and less ignorance, the understanding is there. There can be different level of understanding by vipassana jnana alone, not the intellectual understanding or just thinking about it while it's there. Thinking is not that which is there, but thinking about that which is there now. So it has to be considered the truth that actually, no matter whether it's thinking or seeing or whatever, it's conditioned. No one there. Just remember this. And whenever there is a hearing of any word of the teaching about the truth now, it can lead to more understanding of no one and no self. And this is the point to understand the absolute truth, the Ariya Satya, one by one, Dukkha Satya, and then seeing more about the second one until no more to be such conditioned, ditthi, wrong understanding about what is said now. And that is Nibbana. So now that it's not Nibbana, but is the Nibbana, the moment when what is there by conditioned, it's not conditioned anymore because it's the end of condition for such moment to arise. From understanding little by little intellectually until direct awareness and understanding and to realization that moment with understanding. Not just what is that. Is that this or that? No more doubt. See, and that's the end of condition to condition such wrong understanding and doubt. By then, what condition that moment as object of panya, of that level of understanding? It is from this moment on and on and on, little by little. Is it time now?
It is a John. Yes.
สวัสดีค่ะ
Thank you very much.
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะอาจารย์
กราบเท้าท่านอาจารย์ค่ะ
สวัสดี